Welcome to Book Bites with Rebecca and Rebecca.
Whetting your appetite for your next read.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Book Bites. I'm Rebecca Reed from Indiana, and my partner in books and book bites and all things bookish is the lovely and talented Rebecca Yager from outside of Dallas, Texas. How you doing today, Rebecca?
Doing great. It's our favorite day because we get to talk to authors.
Yes, and today we have another lovely and talented person with us today. She is KyLee Woodley, and she has a new book out. It's out. Yes, it's out. It's called The Convict's Courtship. So, KyLee, how are you today?
I am doing good. I teach preschool during the day, and so I was in the classroom less than an hour ago, so still a little amped up, but had a really great day, and I am just so excited to be on Rebecca and Rebecca, especially this neat new idea of book bites. I listened to I think two of them on my way home today, and I was like, this is awesome. Just getting to hear about the stories and the authors, and it's just kind of easy to consume too, with it only being 10 minutes long. So, anyway, thank you for having me on.
Well, I
Well, we're
think we've just
excited.
hired KyLee to do our
Yeah,
marketing
she's
for
going to do all
us.
our promoting.
KyLee,
Absolutely.
that's it. Well, we are going to talk about the Convict's Courtship, and that is book 3 in the Outlaw Hearts series. We had previously, late last year, reviewed The Bounty Hunter's Surrender, is where we left you, was that book. So tell us about the Convict's Courtship, how the idea came about.
The Convict's Courtship is book 3 in the Outlaw Hearts series, and it is wrapping up this series. It's the final book. So I am extremely excited and a little sad. The hero in this book was in book 1 and book 2. And he started as not a villain, but definitely a minion.
Mhm.
And he just was in all kinds of trouble, and he needed a story. Bo Fox, that was his alias in those two books. And so when I came to book 3, I knew he was going to be the heroine. Excuse me, the hero. And then I was like, well, who should be the heroine? And how would they, would somehow she ended up being connected to the Alexander family. And in book 1, Bo kidnaps and the Alexander heir, and gets into some trouble
Mhm.
and kind of redeems himself in book 2. And so in book 3 is the convict's courtship. So you might have guessed he's escaped from prison and on the run. And he settles in a little mining town of Virginia City. And that location was kind of what I needed for having that West kind of pioneer. I love Virginia City, Nevada. There's a Virginia City, and I believe it's Wyoming. And so sometimes they're confused, but my father-in-law, who actually passed a few months ago, he grew up in the Tahoe Basin and very connected to Virginia City. And we had toured it. It's a beautiful little historical town on a mountain. And yeah, and so those pieces of the story kind of just came together, with Bo being, needing to get some money to continue to be on the run, and Clara's dad being a wealthy mine owner. And then Virginia City is just, it's such a neat old town.
Okay, wow. So, do you have a favorite scene that you can share? If you can't share, because sometimes we don't want spoilers, but if you can share, and if not, maybe just give us a little hint that we can look for as we read through the story.
Oh, I can share. I was listening to the Sarah Sundin book bite, and you asked her, and I was like, I hope they ask me that question, because the opening scene is one of my favorite scenes, and the reason being is that when I was driving in Nevada and researching the story and going to Virginia City, I was reading Roughing It by Mark Twain, because he was a journalist in Virginia City, Nevada in the mid to late 1800s, when he was a young man, and he wrote about his experience there. And he would have been there about 10 or 15 years before my characters. However, he went into a mine as a newspaper man. He would collect an ore sample. And of course, he's not a geologist or anything like that, but he would collect an ore sample and then write an article about the ore and what great quality it is and how people should invest in this mine. Well, when he went down, it was a hole in the ground and there was a rope with a loop on it. And he put his foot in the loop and went down. And a friend of his, who is also a reporter from a different newspaper, they happened to be rivals, lowered him down and he collected his ore sample. And then his friend left him there and went back into town to a saloon, and he waited in pitch black for a couple hours before the miners came back from dinner. And so the opening book of the scene is of Clara, and she's an aspiring journalist, and so she's actually doing the same thing. She's collecting an ore sample, but the mines are much more developed and larger, and she gets lost. And who should find her down some dark tunnel but the handsome and heroic, also bad boy, Mr. Beau Fox. And so that's the opening scene. And it's my favorite because of Mark Twain. And I just reading
Oh,
that, and it was so great. I was on the road to Virginia City reading this, and I was like, we have to find that mine. And of course, it wasn't open anymore, but
that's
very
really cool.
fun.
So intersection of true history and fictional history, and you were able to dovetail those together and make a cool opening scene for your
Yes.
book. That's really cool. That's really
Who would have
neat. I like that.
who would have thought
Wow.
that Mark Twain would inspire romance?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, his books weren't exactly in the romance genre.
He
Well,
was
and
hilarious, though.
Yes,
you know,
very funny, very funny.
Mississippi to the Old West, just
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
just incredible.
I love that inspiration. I love that opening. What a great way for to have the
Yeah.
characters meet. Um, that it was there a character in the story that uh, went awry, didn't do what you wanted him to do, or led you down a different path, or was anything in the stories you were writing that surprised you?
Well, something that surprised me was Clara's stepmom. And the reason being is that if you read the back cover copy, I believe it's in the final version, it should tell you that Clara's mother's passed. However, her dad when he married a second time, he married the lady that he had an affair with. And so Clara's really struggling with that. And I already had used in the bounty hunters surrender, there's the trope where I guess the evil stepmother, although she's the mother-in-law. I had already used that, and so I was like, that isn't going to work, and I feel like that's so overdone. And so I ended up diving into going a lot deeper into um Clara's dad and her stepmom, and kind of the reasons they did what they did in their walk with God, and how, despite like their failures and flaws, and they are both definitely flawed. In fact, you might think that they at different times might be part of, like a villain, at least an antagonist in the show or in the book. But I found myself having more compassion for Tessa, who is Clara's stepmom, than I expected. And yeah, so that kind of surprised me. I don't never know what to share, and it's just book bites, but my mother was actually unfaithful, and I experienced that as a teenager.
Mm.
And so when I was writing this, and I adore my mom, and was an amazing lady. She's gone to be with the Lord now. However, when I was writing this, it just softened my heart a little more, even though, you forgive over and over and over, but
Mhm.
it was like I forgave a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's still, I don't like it when sin is just swept under the rug. They don't have a happily ever after marriage. And I don't mean that in any negative way, but like there are consequences and they're both like just doing the best they can. So that surprised me. And I've had a few reviews from people reading before that it released. When this interview releases, the book will be out. But what I've heard so far is that is still honoring the Bible and what the Bible has to say about marriage and fidelity, but just a little bit of a different perspective. God forgives, so we try to
Hmm.
too.
And
Yeah,
when you go through tough things in life, and sometimes they're really tough, you forgive, and as Christians, we are taught to forgive, but sometimes you have to make that choice every day until you
Hmm.
can, really get through the pain and the hurt. And you have to make that choice every day. So when you said, your heart softened a little more or you forgave a little more,
yeah.
it's true. It's not like we flip a switch and forgive. Sometimes it is a choice we have to make constantly to keep moving forward. And I'm a stepmom, so thank you for putting stepmoms in a nice light.
I
We're
have a
not all evil, I
stepmom.
promise.
Yeah, I have an amazing stepmom. She's just an enormous blessing to our family. So we've been very blessed by her.
I think that's great. I think I'm not one to shy away from tough topics. So I appreciate the fact that you're dealing with something that maybe is not quite as prevalent in Christian fiction today. I think it's good. I think we need to explore all of these avenues because life is messy. It just is. And if we don't write about the messiness, then how do we learn to navigate that? Like I think story is a good way to learn to model. We can model our own life after what the characters do in stories. And so modeling that idea of forgiveness it's always a good thing, no matter, who it is. And so I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that, KyLee. I think that's great. And share with us how people can get a hold of you and connect with you and all of those wonderful things.
Sure. Well, I have a newsletter I'm working on. I share some historical information and research and releases, and I'm always involved in giveaways somehow. I think it's because of the podcast, but you can sign up for my newsletter and get a free short story that's directly connected to the Outlaw Hearts series at KyleeWoodley.com. I also have a podcast, and that's historicalbookworm.com. And so, yeah, if you want to hear more stories and more about history and other amazing authors, just you can put that in your search bar and have a look around our website and listen to a few episodes.
Yeah,
It definitely, yes,
should
you
do
should
that.
do that.
Yes, yes. And again, pick up the Convict's Courtship right now. It is book 3 in this Outlaw Hearts series. What the book 1 was The Bandit's Redemption, and The
Yes.
Bounty Hunter's Surrender was book 2.
Yes.
So just
Yes.
pick up all 3 and enjoy.
Hmm.
And especially now with book 3 out, you can kind of look for Beau Fox as he's sneaking
Yeah,
around in all 3 of these books
Oh, you
that's
will see him.
true.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
I've I was gonna say I really enjoyed both books 1 and 2, and can't wait to have time to read this one. That's always the thing, right? When do we have time to do it? But I'm definitely
Yes.
looking forward to it and want to recommend it to everybody because if it's anything like the first two, it's going to be a fantastic one. So we appreciate that, KyLee. Thank you for being on. And meanwhile, if you're interested in knowing where you can find our podcast and our YouTube channel, you can go to RebeccaandRebecca.com. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything and comment. We want to hear from you as well. Let us know, what is it you like? What is it you don't? We'll try to take that into account and just improve the experience for you all. And take a listen to the Historical Bookworm as well, especially if you're a historical romance fan. That's where you can find out more about those types of books and We appreciate you being here. So thank you so much for joining us. And then what do we have next, coming up
We have,
next?
for our next book bite, we are doing something completely different for us. We are going to be talking to Emma Fay, who is an audiobook narrator. So if you listen to audiobooks like Rebecca does all the time, you're going to get some behind the scenes on audiobooks. So we thought that would be fun and interesting for our readers. And meanwhile, for our podcast, our next review is Detecting Deadly Threats by Carol J. Post, and then we'll have the interview with Carol a little bit later in the month. But meanwhile, again, go to KyleeWoodley.com, pick up The Convict's Courtship, actually pick up all 3 books. Just read the series, have a binge weekend. Meanwhile, we appreciate y'all being here. Thank you, KyLee. It's good to see you again. And we'll see everyone next time.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Good seeing you.